to this channel where we spread love and positive vibes. And I want to start by thanking our new subscribers and our returning subscribers. We value you a lot. We appreciate you. You are the reason we are this far. And therefore, we don't take you for granted. Thank you so much, and a lot of blessings. Today, I want to talk about something I saw that made me to think twice. That actually made me sad. Because when I see what is happening in Africa and what is happening in the Caribbean, then I usually wonder, are our readers' eyes open on what they are doing? Because, guys, we know that our forefathers fought tirelessly and very hard to the last drop of their blood to set us free, so that we may access the freedom to speak, the freedom to walk around, the freedom to participate in any agenda of our country. And therefore, when we go back, when we see our readers taking us back to those days, it becomes very sad. Why am I talking like that? Today, I want to handle the topic, the slave in debt. The slavery in debt. The slavery in debt. Africa and even the Caribbeans, we have become slaves of borrowing loans that are rated, or rather that are charged very high interest rates. And recently, I saw an article from the British High Commissioner of Barbados. Barbados is one of the countries in the Caribbean islands. And according to this British High Commissioner, he was saying that the United Kingdom are preparing to give the Caribbeans loans so that they can be able to develop their country. First of all, I want to tell you that when the deal is too good, think twice. People who want something from you, they just come in the name of helping you, in the name of uplifting you, in the name of doing all that stuff that they say. And they come with very fancy language and very fancy words. Remember that these are the same people that had colonized us, that had enslaved us, that had actually taken every resource from our land and made it theirs and made a lot of fortune from those resources. And instead of returning to us the money they made from our countries during those colonial days, and even compensate our ancestors for the cruelty they showed on our people, they are coming to tell us that they want to assist us, they want to help us because of the disasters that come to our country, because of the poverty that our countries are experiencing, because of hardships that we are experiencing. One thing for sure is that some of these things are actually made by the same masters. For example, let us look at the Caribbean. There is always some earthquakes and the hurricanes. And I want to believe if these people were genuine, they could look away or look for a way to actually reduce these disasters from happening. But I want to believe, instead of reducing the rate at which the earthquakes come, the tsunamis come to the island, they actually facilitate the factors that makes sure these disasters are very frequent in the Caribbean, so that they can actually give an excuse of coming to help the Caribbean countries or the African countries. The African countries have been made poor and poor because of being told that they are going to borrow loans that are going to assist them, to uplift them, to help them in their development, infrastructure, roads, railway lines, and all that. But those loans are actually what can I call it? A rope to tie you to go to the next disaster of our lives, or to go to the next imprisonment of our lives. Now, I want to say that sometimes it's very, very sad when it comes to our leaders and their corrupt nature and their greediness, because they cannot be able to see clearly that these debts are actually supposed to be a way to bring us back to slavery. It is supposed to be a way to tie us, a way to make sure that we don't have the freedom we so much deserve. Because I want to say, even individual loans, the loans that you and me borrow, maybe from a circle, or from a bank, or from any loan rendering company, any loan that you borrow, if you're not careful to invest well using that money, most likely it is actually supposed to bring you down. Economically, physically, health-wise, every angle of your life is brought down. If you don't plan for that loan, and if you don't invest using the amount of money that you have borrowed. And sometimes you can be very smart and invest wisely. But some things happen, and whatever you had done goes down. If it's a business, it goes down. If there are roads, they are not completed. If there are railway lines, they don't bring the profit that you anticipated it will be brought by those investments. And therefore, the loan that you had borrowed, the project that you had put using that money is no longer able to sustain the loans. And the people are given the burden of paying those loans. And these people that are being given the burden to pay those loans are the same people that are actually stricken with poverty. I want to take an example of our nation today. We have borrowed a lot of loans from IMF and the World Bank. And currently, I am a civil servant in Kenya. And I want to say, in my payslip, from the time the current government took power, my payslip has reduced the salary by about 6,000 Kenya shillings. That is not little amount to actually be deducted from a salary or from a payslip that already maybe has other loans that somebody had borrowed to build themselves. I know some people who are civil servants who cannot survive because when these taxes were introduced, the money was taken from them and they had already budgeted for the money that was taken from the payslip. And therefore the payslip is left miserable. And for example, if you have borrowed a bank loan, the bank adds the number of years that you are supposed to pay the loan so that they can be able to make sure that your payslip can sustain you. But even after doing all that, the payslip is left miserable. And most of the workers, the government workers in Kenya, are actually so stressed, depressed, because they don't know where to turn to. They don't know how to say no to these taxes because they are imposed to the common man. And it's not just civil servants. These taxes come from the highest to the lowest in the society. The people who are struggling to actually start a small entrepreneur, a small business, they are heavily taxed. And this is because these companies, IMF and World Bank, they always give conditions that must be fulfilled for them to give out the loans they are talking about. And therefore, that country has to fulfill the conditions imposed by IMF and the World Bank. And remember that these people that belongs, or rather that own these banks, are actually the same people that had enslaved us. I remember the story of the people of Israel. When Moses was able to save the people of Israel from slavery in Egypt, the king of Egypt, even after experiencing the 10 plagues and so many disasters in Egypt, he could not fathom how he could release the people of Israel to go and actually be independent and worship their own God. And therefore, after they had parted Egypt and they were actually about to reach the Red Sea, they were followed by the army of Pharaoh, and it is only because of God fighting for them that they were not killed. What am I saying? Once somebody owes you as a slave, they don't actually feel good when they release you or when you free yourself. We can see what is happening in Haiti. And I want to believe that what is happening in Haiti is actually man-made, so that these people can continue suffering until they surrender their right to these masters. And now we have the same masters coming in form of helping, coming in form of assisting, coming in form of aiding us so that we can develop. And I could ask myself, if these people were really genuine on helping the people of Africa and the Caribbean, why don't they come with donations, with grants, such that the money they give us, it's not money to pay back, it's the money to repay us for the work that was done by our ancestors and the compensation for the cruelty of them to our ancestors. In other words, why don't they give us the reparation? Instead of loans, why don't they give us the reparation money, grants, pay us back the services that we rendered to them that they could not pay, and they exposed us to very cruel conditions? Why don't they pay that instead of giving us the loans? So I was talking about UK, saying that they are prepared to give the Caribbean loans, and these loans will be of high interest. Of course, they don't tell you that they will charge you interest for the loans, but they come in the name of, we want to help you so that you can develop, so that you can come out of the situation you are in, so that you can cater for natural disasters, so that you can cater for floods. Like the other day we had floods in Kenya, and they came up in handy to help us to sort out the problem of floods. And they also came up with some money that they call that we are helping the healthcare, which in actual sense, it's supposed to be roads. The British High Commissioner to Barbados and East Caribbeans said they were preparing to find a sophisticated way to give the developing countries of the Caribbeans loans that they can use to develop. And the word sophisticated way, what is this sophisticated way that the British High Commissioner to Barbados was talking about? They are making it, in other words, he was telling the Caribbean islands, we are going to make it easy for you to access the loans. When the deal is too good, think twice. There are so many solutions that us as Africans and the Caribbeans can actually come together and find how we can sort out our problems without involving the colonial masters. I believe that if the Caribbeans joined hands with Africans, the solutions can be got of how we can sort out our problems without borrowing these loans. Because I want to believe that these loans are actually supposed to be a trap. It is actually a debt trap to the Caribbeans and the Africans, such that if these people are given loans, us and the Caribbeans, if we are given loans, like we have a lot of loans here in Kenya, if we are given these loans and we are not able to pay, what will happen? And I saw somebody saying, this is what will happen. And I actually saw it in Kenya. These loans are supposed to actually be imprisonment, such that if you don't pay those loans, there are some conditions that will be put on you. They can take your land, they can take your homes, they can take your car, they can take anything you owe and actually sue you for owning them loans, and they will never give you loans again. Now you survive having had so much loans and without income to sustain you. I usually believe, even me as an individual, if I want to develop myself, I don't have to borrow loans side, left, in front, and back. I have to plan myself so that I can be able to survive with my salary without overburdening myself with a lot of loans. Because remember that loan is not money given. It's not free money. It's money given with some interest on it. And therefore it drains your pocket, it drains your home, it drains how you're going to bring up your children. And that happens even to a nation. After you borrow the loans, it means the children you have, who are the citizens, are going to be drained their blood. They are going to be drained how they live. They are going to be drained their health care, their education, their day-to-day lives. That is what loans do when they are borrowed without planning. And I want to believe that most of the loans that are borrowed in African countries, and I hope also in the Caribbean, are not planned for. Like here in Kenya, most of the money that is borrowed, most of it goes to corruption, goes to stealing, goes to projects that are individual instead of state projects. And therefore, at the end of the day, there are no projects to repay back those loans. And therefore, I tend to think, within a given time, there'll be a time we'll be having so much loans, but nothing to pay. No money to pay those loans. Where will we go? What will they do to us? That is the big question, because I think the loans that they are giving people is actually a trap. It's a debt trap to recolonize people back to slavery, to turn the people of Africa and the Caribbean back to slavery. Because genuine people will actually give you grants and may tell you, I have given you this time so that you can develop yourself, and then you can actually return that money without interest. But people who want to exploit you, people who want to finish you, people who want you to die, they will give you money and then keep interest high so that you cannot be able to pay, so that they can take back your property and actually repay themselves with it at a higher price. That is what we are experiencing here in Africa and the Caribbean. It is so sad that we cannot see what is happening in Haiti. I want to believe Africa is rich enough to actually sustain itself. The Caribbean, starting from Jamaica, the land I know, they have enough resources to sustain themselves without borrowing loans. Jamaica is a rich country with minerals, with agricultural produce, with tourism attraction sites, and with very hardworking people. That is all what a on its own. At one time, we had a president who was very, very keen on the economy of Kenya. And this guy is still remembered even up to today. President Kibaki. President Kibaki avoided borrowing loans from these people. He actually encouraged using the resources of the nation to build or rather to make projects that are required in the land. But I tend to think the reason why Africa and the Caribbeans ran for these loans is because the leaders want to take some for their own corrupt ways. It's not because they want to develop the country. It's not because they want to build the infrastructure. It's not because they want to build good health care. It's not because they want to build good schools. It's because people are selfish. We have very, very corrupt leaders. And I want to applaud the president to Burkina Faso. Burkina Faso has refused to actually take any loans from World Bank and even from IMF. They have declined to be given any form of loan. And President Ibrahim Traoré is doing quite well without those loans. That is a good illustration. It's a good example that us as Africans and even the Caribbeans, we can do without those loans. We can survive without those loans. We can go far without actually borrowing those loans. But because people are so much used to stealing, people are so much used to corruption, people are so selfish, they want to accumulate a lot of wealth to themselves. They learn for these loans. I hope Barbados does not decide to borrow these loans. We have been set for very good example both in the Caribbean and in Africa. I have mentioned President Ibrahim Traoré of Burkina Faso. He has decided to do without the loans of these people because he has realized these loans are actually a trap to the African countries and to the Caribbean. We also saw Grenada refusing to incorporate these countries from mining their oil, from extracting their oil, transporting the oil, storing the oil, and marketing the oil. Grenada has actually taken an African country to do all that work for it. The country is Nigeria, meaning that Africans combined with the Caribbeans is a very great force. And that is why these people do not want the Africans to actually join hands with the Caribbeans because they can be a great force to reckon. They can be a great force that cannot be broken easily. That is why, in order to prevent the African countries and some of the Caribbean countries from joining the BRICS, they have imposed good processes of borrowing these loans, easy steps to borrow these loans so that they can entice different countries in the Caribbean and even here in Africa so that we can actually fall into the debt trap. And once we fall into the debt trap, it will be very, very hard for us to come out. Why don't we say no? Why don't we join hands, the Africa and the Caribbeans, and we discuss how we can uplift our economy, how we can build our economy, how we can assist each other, because unity is power. And I'm sure combining the brains of the Caribbean people and the brains of the African people, we can do exploits. And no wonder I was actually thinking loudly, is it the same trick that was used to make sure the Africans do not have easy access to the Caribbeans. We have to follow a very long route to go to Jamaica. We have to follow a very long route to go to any country in the Caribbean. Is it a way to separate us from actually having a conversation, having a unity that can be a powerhouse in Africa and the Caribbean? That was my big question, because it's like it is purposed that we don't access the Caribbeans and they don't also access Africa easily. So when we are enticed with these wrongs, when we are told that the processes will be very easy, think twice. When the deal is too good, think twice. We are supposed to liberate ourselves from the slavery hands, the slave master's hands, by being our own boss, by dictating our own economy, by implementing projects that are going to actually uplift our economy, by being selfless without wanting to accumulate a lot of money that we are going to leave to the children that are going to scatter it. Just like Ecclesiastes says, that you gather a lot when you are alive, but when you are dead, they are eaten by strangers. We are supposed to actually be our brother's keepers. We love one another. You don't want to own everything. You are own and the others are dying of hunger. That is a very, very bad spirit. And it is the spirit that is destroying Africa and the Caribbeans. The spirit of saying me and me and me and no one else. I want to own the whole world. I want to own the whole Kenya. I want to own the whole Uganda. I want to own everywhere. And you leave the others dying of hunger. Africa is not poor, but we have very, very poor leaders. Africa is not a country that cannot stand on its own. But our managers of the finances are the ones who have a problem. And therefore, it's a high time we wake up and join hands, Africa and the Caribbeans. We build a strong powerhouse that cannot be broken. This can only be done with a lot of selfless, a lot of concern for each other, a lot of collaborations, a lot of talks, so that we can build a strong Caribbean island and a strong Africa. And I think this will be the solution to the problems that we have. Because when we wait for these people to give us the reparation money or grants, they'll never do that. Because they want us to remain at the state we are in. A state of poverty. A state of desperation. And you know, we usually say that when you are desperate, when you are hungry, when you cannot even feed your children, you are desperate. You can be told, jump, and you jump. Look at the people of Israel when there was hunger in the land. And we read about the lepers that were sitting at the gate of Samaria. And it is said that during that time, there are some women who felt that the hunger had gone too much. And they decided to eat their children. Can you see the result of hunger? The result of poverty? Can you imagine two women discussing to actually eat their own children? Do you see how poverty can have power over evil? Poverty can make you do anything, even eat your own child. And that is what these people aim at, to make sure that we suffer, to make sure that we are in poverty, until that we can accept any condition we are given. So these two women, one of them started by giving out her child to be eaten by both of them. And then the other one refused their child to be eaten. And King Solomon, I think King Solomon was called to sort out the matter. So what am I saying? Hunger is very, very bad. Poverty is the worst thing in the world. And for Africans and the Caribbeans, we have to fight poverty. Do we want to free ourselves from slavery? Do we want to free ourselves from colonial masters? Do we want to free ourselves from all those bad things? Then we have to become selfless and come together and unite and build a strong Africa Caribbean state that will be able to actually support each other, help each other, stand with each other to be a strong force to reckon. And this can only be done without some betrayers, without some people going behind the scene. Yeah, that is the only solution to the rub. So be aware, the Caribbeans. Be aware, African people. When the deal is too good, think twice. And remember, a snake cannot be anything else. It will remain a snake. And when you rattle it, it can bite you. So let us put that into consideration. And this is the end of this video. Bye-bye. See you during the next video, and God bless.